I'm Liz Laporte. I am the founder of Porte Education Advising, and I'm delighted to have another college webinar and interview with an admission rep. And tonight we have the University of Oregon's Monique Blais here to tell us all about the excellent school up north and a little bit about maybe the Ducks and the engineering majors, which I know a lot of my students are very interested in, and parents as well. And so just a couple of points of housekeeping. Dominique has put a QR code there, and anytime you'd like to just place your phone over that, I think you'll be brought to a form, and that will be a really nice way to keep in touch with Dominique. And then the other point of interest is go ahead and ask questions. We love questions, right, Dominique, about what's going on personally with each person. And we will get to those questions either during the webinar or at the very end. So happy to have people coming in. And again, thank you so much, Dominique, for coming and spending some time with us. So let's get started. I just like to ask a couple of sort of introductory questions, and then I understand you have some slides, and then we can certainly answer questions toward the end. Yeah. So first of all, how do you like working at the University of Oregon? And you've got a beautiful photograph in the background, and just love to hear how you ended up at such an excellent school.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, this is first year actually working with University of Oregon. I was at a smaller institution before this and ended up switching mainly because it is just such a well-known public university, especially on the West Coast. And for me personally, I really loved how many resources that the campus has for various types of students all across the board. That was really important to me, is having support systems both before and while on campus. So I really enjoy it. We have a really great team. I have yet to meet an alumni that did not absolutely adore the school. So even though I am not an alumni myself, I think being now an employee, I kind of wish that I had gone here. So it's a really beautiful school. The campus is absolutely gorgeous. If you haven't been able to visit, I highly, highly recommend. I think that is, one of the best features of our campus is just how gorgeous it is. So yeah, really, really enjoy it.
Great. So I'm really glad that you mentioned support. I know that, with the time that we're in and the pandemic and all kinds of things, I think we're all realizing that support is so much more important than ever. And so I'd love to hear a little bit more about perhaps the support that your departments give to students, or other kinds of support that is available.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually think that I might have a slide with a little bit more information on this. Let me go to that one really quick and I can show you all. So we do have mental health services available on campus for our students that they can use at any time. So we have specialized identity-based support on campus. So we have support for our queer students, for students of color. We also have individual and group therapy sessions that they can utilize. We have some drop-in hours. So we have therapists as well as psychologists available on campus. And we even do some types of workshops and trainings for students. And then just outside of that, we also have the Duck Nest, which is kind of our wellness center for students to hang out and just kind of get a reprieve for a little bit. So there's psychiatric services, therapy services, and then we do have our rec center on campus for kind of the physical aspect of things like that as well. So that's definitely really important to us. I know, especially because of COVID and things like that. And I know even as a Californian myself, being up where maybe it rains a little bit more than we are used to, I think that's helpful as well, just to have those support systems too. So definitely a priority for us and our students.
That's great. I think that's the most adorable name, the Duck Nest Wellness Center. I mean, I think that's so perfect for, how sometimes you feel you just want to be in a sort of protective area, and I love that your university is using your, you know, your duck logo and brand for that. That's really, really cute. Can you tell us sort of in general what the University of Oregon admission office is sort of looking for in terms of students? I know that the acceptance rate is fantastic, and it's very accessible and welcoming to everybody, which I think is just great. But maybe you can talk a little bit about the kids who are accepted, and if there's any characteristics or anything else that you can tell us about those who actually go there.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we are looking at students who are applying, I believe usually I think this past year, the average GPA for students was about a 3.75, which again, that's an average, right? So we are accepting students usually above a 3.2 is like a really good candidate. And then, you know, obviously we have really high achieving students as well. I think this last year was the highest GPA kind of cumulatively as a group for our classes coming in. But then in terms of just like general things that we're looking for, you know, we want students who have been, you know, participating in activities, right? Whether that is a club, a sport, volunteering, it can be work or even family responsibilities. Those all count for us. And then we do have some, you know, specific sort of academic requirements, right? So we need to have students who have completed 4 years of English, 3 years of math, science, social studies, and then 2 years of a foreign language, all with C minuses or better. Something that I do really like to tell students too is that we are looking at cumulative weighted GPAs. So when I'm saying a GPA, that's what I'm referring to is cumulative, meaning every single class, including PE, including classes that maybe they remediated, which can be a little bit different than the California system, right? A lot of times students will, you know, retake a class. Maybe they got a D in their math and then they got an A when they retook it, and they think that that A will just kind of replace the D, which is what happens for some of the California school systems. But for our school, we're still going to look at that D, and that still has to go into our calculation. So I think that's just helpful for students to kind of know that our calculation can sometimes be slightly different than even what is listed on the high school transcript, because we are doing that calculation on our end when students submit their self-reported grades, essentially. So I think that that's just helpful to know, mainly because I know, you know, even things like PE matter, right? So encouraging students to continue to keep their grades up, even in those classes that may not be core classes, that's still counting towards GPA calculations.
Perfect. A lot of my students and families are currently interested in engineering, and I'm really happy that more girls are interested as well. I think that's a really positive you know, change. Can you talk a little bit about your engineering majors? I know there's so many of them, and I know you have a ton of majors at that university. But if you could talk a little bit about that, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, so I think it's helpful to know that University of Oregon does not actually have any engineering majors. So Oregon State tends to be the one that has more engineering majors. We do have bioengineering as a minor, but we don't have like an engineering department or an engineering like major specifically. So that's definitely helpful for a lot of students to know. If you know for a fact that you want to go into engineering specifically, we may not be the best fit, but we do have a lot of really great STEM programs, right? So we have our biology programs, we have computer science, human physiology. We have a new data science department that's really great. You know, there's AI, there's software engineering, there's cybersecurity, all a part of that as well. We have neuroscience, and marine biology is a really popular program at our school, as well as human physiology. So although we don't have engineering specifically as a major, we have a lot of other really fantastic STEM programs. And I know you might get to this later, maybe skipping ahead a little bit, but the nice thing about our STEM majors, things like computer science and stuff, is that we're not impacted in any way, because we do not, our STEM programs are not selective majors. So meaning that if you apply to the University of Oregon and you get in, you're automatically in that major. We do have a couple of selective majors, but they're not, and none of them are in the STEM field. It's going to be our architecture program, Our art programs, some of our dance and music have auditions. Those things have additional application requirements and portfolios go along with them. But the rest of our programs are just direct admits, essentially. So that's kind of nice, right? If you know that you want a STEM field like computer science, knowing that you're not going to have to fight for your spot can be really helpful and a really great advantage to going to an out-of-state school and University of Oregon specifically.
Great. Yeah, I guess the engineering is within those, those majors in that sense. And I'm assuming that the students who, are indicating that major and who are being accepted into those majors are fairly accomplished in terms of math and the STEM, areas. Can you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, in terms of like what we're looking for in those classes and things like that. Yeah. So again, because they're not selective majors, right? They don't have to have a certain grade in math or science.
Oh, great.
Again, as long as they're just meeting our general admissions requirements, they're going to get into those STEM programs. So again, as long as they're getting, those 3 years of math and science with C minuses or better, they're, at least meeting our admissions requirements, which is going to get them into those STEM fields. So we're not super specific in terms of when we're looking at, math and science grades for those fields, specifically. So it's definitely a little bit easier or less competitive to get in. But when you're here, it's still a really competitive program in the sense of you're getting those resources. We are a tier 1 research institution, which means that there are a ton of on-campus opportunities for students to do hands-on research, both STEM and not, right? It's not just for the STEM fields, but our faculty are doing a lot of really fantastic research, and our students get to have a lot of hands-on opportunities that is not necessarily always available at the undergraduate level at other institutions. So I think that is definitely a plus for getting to come to our school.
Great. And those fields are they're practically pre-professional where, students are really looking for employment and opportunities. Can you talk a little bit about, are there internships, summer opportunities? Recruiters, I'm sure, come to campus, and we'd love to know a little bit.
Let me see. I think I have a slide for that one as well. I think it's our next one right here. Yeah. So we have a really awesome and robust career services department. So we have both on-campus jobs and off-campus jobs, right? So we have, I believe there's 63,000 student jobs available on campus every year. So if students need to work while they are on campus, there are plenty of opportunities right there, not even off campus. But we do have event fairs, career fairs, and the career services office is great as well. They're going to help you with interview prep, with resume building, making sure that you know how to network and things like that. And then each department is going to have kind of their own list of internships that are available. Now, it's not like a direct placement program, right? Like we're not going to have this, Google's not going to have 5 spots available for University of Oregon.
Of course.
But what we do have is an online dashboard. It's called Handshake. A lot of 4-year institutions use it. It's basically like a job listing platform for college students specifically. So a lot of our students will utilize Handshake to find internships and jobs off campus. And also even just using, previous students, right? Like that is the big perk of going to a school that has such, I think, a heart for the campus, is that our alumni network is really fantastic. And if you know alumni that are in a particular field, that is in itself, I think, a really useful resource to have. So we definitely have plenty of opportunities for students to find jobs and internships. And our career services department is a fantastic resource that students should utilize.
That's great. That sounds excellent. There's also, from a California perspective, the cost is an issue for everybody, right? It's something that folks, pay attention to. And with such a great university with so many opportunities, I'm sure it's worthwhile to attend the University of Oregon. Are there scholarships and areas that parents and students should perhaps look into in terms of aid and scholarship information?
Yeah, absolutely. So although we are not a WUI school, so we don't give, in-state tuition for out-of-state students like some other schools on the West Coast, we do have scholarships specifically available for our out-of-state students. They are merit-based, so they're going to be based off of that same cumulative weighted GPA calculation that I was referencing earlier. But for example, if students have above a 3.7, they're going to automatically get our APEX scholarship, which I believe, let me double check. I think it is $10,000 per year. Yeah. So it's $10,000 per year for up to 4 years. And then we have, one that is the Summit Scholarship. That's for students who have a 3.9 GPA and above, and that one's $12,500 per year. And then we also have a couple of scholarships that they can apply for that are, a separate process, right? So we have our STAMP scholarship. That one's kind of for top scholars, really. It's usually students who have above a 4.0 and are kind of involved in a lot of things. And that one essentially does give you in-state tuition rates. So it's like a comparable amount. How much it's taking off, it's going to kind of drop you down to around in-state. And then we also have our Diversity Excellence Scholarship. That's a really great option for students to apply for as well. And that one's based off of, I believe it's a 3.0 or higher GPA. And then you do have to show financial need as well as fill out an additional essay for that one. So we do have scholarships available for out-of-state students. The other thing that we do, it's called the Oregon Guarantee. So we do a fixed tuition rate, meaning we're never going to increase the tuition while students are with us. A lot of schools, a lot of campuses, especially in California, are raising their tuition, 5 to 6% every year, right? And so this is just our way of trying to help students and families plan ahead, so you know exactly what to expect. You're not going to get any surprises along those 4 years. And then the other thing too, we always recommend filling out the FAFSA. I know right now the FAFSA is a little bit of a mess and kind of a big question mark for both families and on the institutional side too. We're all kind of trying to figure out what to do with all the information that we're getting. But filling out the FAFSA is still very highly recommended, even if you don't think that you're going to get anything. So fill it out. And then the other thing that I say, 2 other things is, one, departments sometimes have their own scholarships available. More often than not, they are available for continuing students. So you may not be able to get it as an incoming freshman, but you can get it, your sophomore, junior, senior year, those kinds of things. And then local scholarships. I always just, plug local scholarships for different high schools. It might be only $500 to $1,000, but that money can go with you anywhere, right? And it adds up. I think, that's how I paid for a good portion of my, first 2 years was just scholarships that I had gotten when I was in senior in high school. So plenty of resources. Our financial aid department is super helpful. You can always give them a call, and they are more than happy to answer additional questions too.
Great. And Dominique, you mentioned those scholarships for the 4.0 plus students. Is that something that they automatically receive that after submitting, or is that something separate from the the application, the main application?
Yeah, so the STAMP scholarship, that biggest scholarship, is an additional application piece, and students actually need to apply to the university as early action in order to apply for STAMPs on time. And that one, does have an additional essay component in it as well.
Okay. So this may be a good time to ask some questions around the Clark Honors College.
Yeah.
And I know these are opportunities for students who are, really gung-ho and very academically motivated, and it'd be lovely to hear a little bit more about that opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a slide for that one as well. So we are one of the top public honors colleges in the country. And I think that this is a really great way for, those students who want to continue to academically challenge themselves, and maybe they work better in more of a discussion-based classroom, right? So the way that our Clark's Honors College works is it's actually 2 separate applications. So students will apply to the University of Oregon, and they will apply to the CHC at the same time. Those are also 2 different decisions, right? So even if a student doesn't get into CHC, they can still be admitted to the University of Oregon and even apply again to the CHC once they're on campus. We just call it a lateral transfer. If is in the CHC, that is essentially replacing their general ed courses. So instead of taking, a general lecture hall, for a math class or something, they're going to take a more focused, discussion-based, interdisciplinary classes with only, 15 or so other students max in a classroom. And they're going to be a little bit more lively. It's going to be a lot of, sitting in a circle, doing a lot of reading, and then coming and talking about that reading together. So any major can be part of the CHC because, again, it's just replacing the general education courses. It's not for a particular major or anything like that. You're still taking your major courses with the rest of the, the college. You can still take elective courses with the rest of the college. This is really just to kind of help you with those GEs. And it really does, I think, help you get more time, with professors or a smaller cohort of students. So it's more academically challenging, and it is just, I think, a great opportunity to build community. We do also have an additional and optional living learning community for our honors students as well. So if they want to live in the same dorm on the floor together, a lot of our honors students have really said that they've really enjoyed that. So that's an option as well. But I think, the CHC is a really great opportunity for those, maybe higher achieving students that are wanting to continue that rigorous course load. So
great. Thank you for all that information. I think you said you brought some slides that you'd like to show, and that'd be great. Yeah,
awesome. So we can kind of keep going through this a little bit here. Let me kind of just go through just a little bit more general information about our campus here. So we do have about 19,500 undergraduates. And I believe it's, maybe about 2,500 grad students. So really, this is a predominantly undergrad serving institution, which is why I think that tier 1 research institution placement is really important too, because a lot of times, especially in California, we have a lot of graduate schools serving. That's where the research is happening at the graduate level. But even though we have such a large institution here at University of Oregon, you're still getting that hands-on research opportunities with different faculty members. And you have a 19-to-1 student faculty ratio, which I think is really nice too. That even though we're really big, you're still going to be in classes that are all taught by professors. Professors have office hours. They're very available for students, which is fantastic. And about 74% of our students are going to do some type of research activity while they're with us, which is fantastic. Yeah. And then just in general, some of our popular majors, right? So we do have things like advertising. Architecture is one of our selective majors, very, very popular. Biology, business is another really popular program. Our computer science. We have economics. Human physiology is kind of the main one that students who are maybe interested in more like health tracks tend to go into. We have our journalism, which is one of the oldest schools of journalism in the country. It's very well known. Political science and psychology are also pretty popular as well. So
and so Dominique, we have a question. Maybe we can just pause for a second. Does taking a lot of AP or honors classes increase a student's chances to be accepted? How does that work in the admissions committee?
So that is an element that we look at. So we do look at course rigor. So when we are taking a look at transcripts and their self-reported grades, we're going to take a look and see, are they challenging themselves? And even, we're looking more at how they're challenging themselves and even maybe a little bit less in like the grades that they're getting in that class per se. Those are two kind of different categories that we're looking at. But course rigor is a big portion of what we're looking at. So if students are taking APs and challenging themselves, that looks really great on college applications. And then also, it kind of helps you guys as families too, because then, most of those AP exams, if students are passing them, that's college credit that they get and a couple less GEs that they have to take and a little bit more money that you're hopefully saving. So I always recommend taking AP, IBs, all of that. We actually do have a scholarship for IB students as well who've got an IB diploma. We have a scholarship for those as well. So definitely encouraging that.
Great. And thank you for the question. Keep them coming. It's really nice to have that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then just a little bit more information about kind of just things on campus that our students can do. So we have, tons of stuff that's happening on campus all the time. We have over 2,400 events that happen throughout the year. We have over 300 different student clubs and organizations. So we do have Greek life, But we also have plenty of other clubs on campus. We have things like
Good.
Outdoor Adventure Club. We have an a cappella group. We have more like political affiliations, more identity-based groups. So that's really, I think, a big part of our campus is it's very lively, and no matter who you are or what you're interested in, there's going to be a group for you, an event for you, representation for you. We have 60 different multicultural and identity-based centers and groups on campus. And I think that they do a really good job of kind of all working together and providing that support that we talked about earlier. And I can kind of show you the list of different centers and programs that we have available as well. So again, we have students from all over the world, and we want to make sure that everyone feels comfortable and safe on our campus. And so we definitely want to provide as much support as possible and different groups for students to be supportive. So that's very much an important part of our campus mission is diversity and equity. And we also have a lot of sports, right? So I think
I do.
very well known for our football team. But we are also Tracktown USA. We've hosted the US Olympic trials, I think, for the 8th time this year.
Wow.
So that's really a big deal at our school as well. And we have 20 Division I sports total. We've won 38 Division I national championships, but then we also have 40 club sports. So even if a student isn't at the, getting recruited level, we still have competitive club sports available for students that they can try out for. And then if they're just kind of wanting to play for fun, we have 28 different intramural leagues as well that they can kind of just join, have a good time with other students on campus as well. So very much a big part of our campus culture. I know a lot of students love going to the games. That's a big, that stadium is huge, and a lot of the community members come in to watch those games too, which I think kind of just like helps add the sort of like community energy in you, because it is a college town in a lot of ways, but the town loves the college. So I think it's a really great place to live. And then we have our rec center as well, which is really beautiful. We have a rock climbing wall, we have an indoor pool, we have multiple indoor tracks. It's like four levels. It's honestly impressive. It's a really one of the best rec centers that I think I've seen in a while. So I definitely recommend checking that out if you haven't been on campus. Usually the tours will go through that, but that's a little bit more information just kind of about campus life that I had available, but wasn't sure if you had any other additional questions or anything like that too.
Yeah, no, I'm really glad that you brought up the town gown kind of relationship. And I'm wondering if students, I haven't seen this myself, but how many students live on campus? I'm sure that lots of older students might live, off campus, and how available is housing, I guess is the question.
Great question. Yeah. So first year freshmen are required to live on campus. So they will, for their first year, be guaranteed housing. Students can continue to live on campus after their first year. There are limited spaces available for that. But the nice thing again about our campus is it's a college town. And even if students are living off campus is like a mile, 2 miles away, right? There's plenty of housing available for students. We're not really a commuter school. It's really just all right there. And a lot of students don't even have a car. They just kind of bike around. We're a very, very bike friendly campus and town. Eugene has tons of different hiking availabilities and biking all around the river and stuff. So that's the main way that students will get around. We also do offer free public transportation to students as well for the town of Eugene. So they just have to show their student ID and they can kind of get around anywhere that they need to. And it's a really easy public transit system. If students do want to bring a car, that's totally fine. Parking permits are an additional charge fee. So kind of just think about that. I usually recommend that students try their first semester without a car, see how it feels. More often than not, they end up pretty fine. And then if they do want a car, talk to family members and make that happen and stuff. But it's really an easy way to get around the town. It's pretty pedestrian friendly, I would say.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And any other questions from our audience? That you're welcome to type those in. I'd like to know just a little bit about like the weather up there. I know it's supposed to be sunny California down here.
Right.
It's not always that way in the Bay Area, but I know students often, talk about weather as being important, and some of my students really want rain and, the seasons, and others
Yeah.
don't. So maybe you could talk to that sort of that living, situation, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So you definitely get all 4 seasons where we are, and we're located in Eugene. It's pretty central Oregon. So we are about 2 hours south of Portland. We're about an hour from the coast, hour from the Cascade Mountains, about 3.5 hours from the top of California. So it's a pretty great location. You get all 4 seasons. So in the summer, it does get pretty toasty. I do think that they sometimes do get wildfires a little bit similar to, Californians in Northern California. I feel like we're pretty used to that. And then in the winter, they just had kind of a freak ice storm like a few weeks ago. So be prepared for that. We do have, inclement weather kind of protocols when that does happen to make sure that students are safe and everything. But yeah, it does snow sometimes in Eugene. Does get pretty icy and things like that. But I think it's still a really beautiful opportunity to have all 4 seasons. Personally like to go in the summer. We're right next to the Willamette River. You literally cross over the river in order to go to the football stadium. And so whenever I visit campus in the spring and summer, I will go, swimming in the river. A lot of students will float down it. They'll do their homework by the river, lots of little spots and trails around there. Kayaking's pretty common along the river too. So it's pretty chill. It's very nice. I think I would, maybe even beg to say a little bit nicer than some of our Northern California rivers. And I grew up here, so that's saying something. But yeah, I think it's a really beautiful location to see all 4 seasons. And it's very, very green, both in terms of like,
Beautiful.
we are considered an arboretum because we have so many different types of trees.
Wow.
But also we're very sustainable and we really care about recycling and, biking and things like that. So it's a beautiful, beautiful city.
Yeah, no, I've been up there. It's gorgeous. And I'm sure that so many Californians do go to school there. Do you have a sense of 40% or how many
Yeah, I
us
don't know
are
the
going up there?
percentage. Yeah, I don't know the percentage off the top of my head, but Californians are, the highest out of state.
Out of state.
Yeah, most of our students, do come from Oregon, but then California is right under that. So we're the biggest feeder state for University of Oregon. So lots and lots of Californians. The nice thing in terms of like getting there and stuff is you're gonna have lots of people that you can either carpool with or fly with. Really, it's not that far to drive. I mean, especially from the Bay Area. I mean, it might be like 9 to 10 depending on traffic, right? But that's no different than going to Southern California, right? So I think that we're kind of used to it. And then we also do have 2 airport options, so you can fly directly into Eugene, especially if you're coming from like SFO or Oakland. You can usually get a direct flight there pretty easily. Or you can fly into Portland, which is a lot bigger, so a lot more direct flights available, and then drive the 2 hours south. So different options to get there depending on finances and time and all of that kind of stuff. I am based in Sacramento, so I have flown out of Sacramento, and there's not any direct flights from there. So they've actually sent me to Burbank and then up to
Back
Eugene.
up.
So,
Okay.
I think SFO and Oakland are a little bit better in terms of getting direct flights like that. Yeah.
Great. And then my last question for you, Dominique, is so obviously, admission reps are sort of responsible for, or they're the ones who are reading a lot of the applications. Can you just give us kind of a snapshot about that process?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are in the thick of application reading season right now. So that's been what I've been doing all week. But yeah, a lot of it really is just, we're going to take a look at, like I said, their GPA. So we have students self-report their grades. We're going to take a look at the GPA, the rigorous, how rigorous their course load is. We're going to read their personal essay, get a little bit more information about them, look at their activities and things that they're involved in. Letters of recommendation are optional, as are test scores, ACT and SAT. And when we say optional, we truly, truly do mean optional. It's not going to ding you at all if you don't have it. Sometimes we don't necessarily have to look at it. But if you do submit those things, we'll take a look at it and, it'll never dock you really. But those are kind of the main things that we're looking at. And then in terms of just trying to get back to students, We try our best to get back to students within 4 to 6 weeks. So we do have deadlines.
Oh,
So early action, I believe, is December 15th. And then regular decision is January 15th, if I'm not mistaken. And, you know, we kind of just do a little bit of rolling, but also with deadlines. So it's just to kind of help our
yeah.
students gauge where they're at in the process and stuff. But yeah, it's a little bit about what that looks like. And a lot of times the Bay Area especially is really good at having case studies that actually kind of shows students what the application reading process looks like. And we kind of all get together and pretend to be admissions counselors all as one and go through applications. I highly recommend if there's any of those in your guys' areas to attend one of those because they are really insightful in terms of helping students understand what we as admissions counselors are looking at and also understand that a lot of times it's really different per school. So how I read applications may be really different than another school. And they're all just kind of helpful. And that's what we're here for, is ask us questions about how we read. And we're happy to answer. So
Great. So that's actually a good transition. Perhaps we can put the first slide in where the QR
yeah.
code is. And as we sort of wind down the webinar, yeah, anybody who came in a little bit later, so the QR code, you just put your phone over that and it will pop up to sort of a form, contact us form kind of thing. For any of the students and parents who are listening, this is a really great way to get information that you really can't find on the website. Maybe you have a specific question about a course or a major or any other questions. There's so many facts and so many details out there. And I urge you all to, to reach out when you, have interest in a college. And then especially for things like early action, when is that, those kinds of things that may not be really clear on the website. Oh, and then the other thing I wanted to bring up actually was info sessions such as this, but I know the admission office does those sessions as well, and those are also really great. There's probably more slides and maybe a little less personalized, but they're also a really great way to get to know a campus, and also just putting down requests for information, right, Dominique, is a good way to sort of start that process, that relationship with a college.
Absolutely. Yeah. Feel free to always just email me. That's a really great email. You can also text that phone number that's listed too. I'm happy to answer via text.
Great.
And then in terms of, different campus visits and stuff, I definitely recommend visiting campus if you haven't. We do campus tours Monday through Saturday. So it's really great. It's about an hour and a half. It's pretty long, but you start out in an amphitheater, getting to watch kind of like some clips and things like that. And then you get to take a tour and stuff. So it's really beautiful. I think that that's the best way that students are going to kind of know whether or not it's right for them. But yeah, lots of different opportunities. If there are any families that happen to have accepted students, we do have accepted student receptions in Northern California. We're going to start that here at the end of this month. Last week of February, first week of March is for Southern California students. So that happens every year. We'll have student receptions for accepted students. But I did see one more question in the chat about asking about what kind of student activities we're looking for. And that's a great question.
Great.
It's just could be anything, honestly. I like to see when students have been, doing a hobby. Like, I really love it when I see like, oh, I've been playing guitar for 10 years, or I'm in this club that I really care about. It's nice to have a mixture of things that a student might show leadership, right? Leadership is definitely part of our criteria when we're kind of looking at activities, but also just being able to see like consistency, right? That they've been in an activity for a certain amount of time, that they really are invested in that. Even things like internships, or I know some students will do stuff like through the UCs, they'll have like a big camp for like a STEM camp or something like that. That looks fantastic. Any sort of like regional, national type of thing that they have been recognized for is incredible. And that's definitely going to boost them up as well. So it can really be anything, even things like family responsibilities, right? Like if you are a caregiver for a grandparent and that is taking up a lot of your time, and that's why you can't maybe be in certain clubs, that's great to put down. I think the main thing to think about when writing applications is to give us a whole picture, right? So something that I kind of like to remind students is if there's a semester that you had maybe kind of poor grades, write in our special circumstances essay that is optional. You don't have to write it, but if there are special circumstances, let us know because we will take that into consideration. That's all important to us is getting a holistic picture of a student and understanding what was going on in a student's life during their high school years, what they're interested in, what they're passionate about, what they want to do in the future. That's all important to us when we're looking at applications. So hopefully that answered that question a little bit.
Yeah, no, it's been great, Dominic. Thank you so much for taking the time to prepare your presentation and to be interviewed or to chat with me about the university, and I really appreciate it. And I'll send as many students as I can to the school. I know it's just an excellent place, and what a great place to kind of go out of state, but not like so far away from California. I know the cost of transportation is actually pretty significant, so it can make a lot of sense. So thank you so much again, and
Absolutely.
we'll keep let's see, we'll keep up the slide perhaps for another 5 minutes, and so but I'll say goodbye, and I'll say goodbye to our guests, our attendees. Thank you all so much, and please look forward to another email about the next webinar, and we'll keep in touch with everybody. So
Perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, Dominique. Bye-bye.
Bye.